Hey team, how are you all? This morning, 10 a.m. New Zealand time, we're going to be chatting to a chap called Josh Jurkovich. He's a guy I know from a mastermind I'm a part of, and I'm hoping that today we'll be able to get this set up pretty easily. I'll just wait for Josh to come online, and he can invite himself, and then we'll get chatting. How are you all? Is anyone watching? Comments below as to where you're watching from, please. Josh, you there, buddy? He's filtering through to the States. He's based in the States. Let's check who's online. No joy as yet. Let me just type him a message. See if he comes on. Josh, you there, buddy? Josh, here you are. I think you're just being added, Josh.
Yo,
Hey, mate, how are
what's
you?
good, man? I'm good. How are you?
Good, it's working.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get my phone in this little tripod here, and then we're good to go, so that way I have my hands free. What's up, man?
Cruising, just got to work. Well, now I'm sitting outside a little cafe near the co-working space where I work. So yeah, it's a
Oh,
sweet
that's
spot.
cool. Awesome, man. I'm outside in my sunroom in the back of my house right now, just enjoying the beautiful weather. I love this because it actually, like, we just moved into this house, right? But this is what I get to look at all day when I work.
What?
There's all this green, all these trees, all
Dude,
this
that's
beautiful
stunning.
stuff, which is amazing because we're going to be talking about anxiety and all that kind of stuff today. And I'll tell you, like, one of the things for me is I am working out here, and all I have to do is look up and breathe, and I feel better already, which is amazing. Like,
Dude,
the
green
house that I
space.
was in before, yeah, the house I was in before, literally, my workspace was down in an office, like down in my basement. So I had one little window that was covered with blinders because there's people walking by on the sidewalk all day long, and that's annoying and frustrating. So for me, it's funny because Jordan Peterson is about to come out with his second book, the 12 More Rules for Life, which is interesting. And one of the rules is make one room in your bedroom or in your house as beautiful as it possibly can be, especially if you're like working there.
Absolutely,
And
like a
for
retreat.
me, yeah, totally. So for me, this has been amazing already, and we've been here for like a total of 3 days.
So is Detroit pretty green, is it? Like, is it
Uh,
in general?
I would say Detroit proper, like the city. No,
Concrete jungle.
but we're outside of Detroit. So anyone who's joining or anyone else who is watching this, hi, my name's Josh. You guys probably already know Jeremy. Um, my wife and I just moved from Baltimore, Maryland to outside of Detroit in Michigan, a little town called Beverly Hills, which is amazing. So I'm just starting to enjoy my new office and my new workspace.
Looks stunning, dude. Looks stunning.
Yeah, thank you.
So, for those folks watching, and the reason I've asked Josh on is because he has in the past suffered from. Well, I'm not going to tell his story. What I'm going to do is ask him to give him a bit of background on where he grew up, what his childhood was like, what his family was like, etc. And then we'll lead into some potentially more challenging times for him during his life this time around. So yeah, Josh, just do you want to kick off where you're from? What your family life
Yeah,
was like, just
totally.
growing up and that.
Totally, and I really appreciate that. I'm actually. It's funny that we're coming on here to discuss anxiety and all of that because that's what I have problems with on a day-to-day basis. I still do, so it's not something that ever goes away. But I'm very anxious just to be here because I don't like going live and I don't like taking videos. I think a lot of people can probably
Oh,
relate to
totally.
that. But Just a little bit about me. Right now, my wife and I own a marketing agency. We just moved across the country. We're part of a few different masterminds. That's how I know Jeremy, which is amazing. But to get a little bit more personal, I suppose, I grew up in a very large family. So I'm one of 7 kids and I'm number 5, right? My mom always tells me that growing up, I was always the happy kid. I was always smiling. I was always laughing at everything and anything that you could be smiling and laughing at, all the way from the age of 0 up to the age of 14, which is crazy. But for me, my life really turned around, and my struggles with anxiety and depression and things like that started when I was 14 years old, and being number 5 out of 7 in a family. It's crazy in and of itself because you have a lot of middle child stuff that happens throughout that. But also, we tragically lost my older brother, the one that was just above me, in a car accident when I was 14 years old. He was only 16, and he was the driver of the car. It actually took four kids with him, and that completely rocked my world. It was crazy. So, long story short, I've struggled with a lot. I didn't really identify with any of it until a few years back when I made some serious changes in my life, and we'll talk about all of that. But when that happened, my life was turned upside down, right? You lose a brother, you basically get some symptoms of PTSD, anger, rage, anxiety, depression, like all the things that come with a serious loss of when you're 14 years old, when you're in those developing years, when you're really trying to figure out, who you are, who you're meant to be, what your purpose is in life. And, I believe that my world was rocked, and I was 14 years old and I had no idea what to do. So I did what the most logical thing to do would be, which is to turn to drugs and alcohol, because that's easy, right? You're anxious and you're depressed and you don't know who you are and you don't know what to do. So instead of dealing with all those things, I just turned to smoking pot, smoking whatever I could, taking whatever pills I could, doing whatever I wanted, drinking every day, and all of that. And that's a really, really long story, but luckily I made it. Like, the crazy part for me is that it happened right between my freshman and my sophomore year in high school.
So what is that for people who are not in the States? Is that like between 14 and 15, is it? I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's if you look at the last 4 years of school before you go to college, freshman is the year that you first go to high school. Sophomore is the second year. Then you have junior and senior.
Right.
So what's crazy about that, though, is I'm from an extremely small town, and this happened during the summer of those 2 years. So I go back to school. Nobody knows how to treat me. Not only do I not know who I am,
No.
also nobody knows how to treat me or how to console me or how to be there for me or how to do anything for me. So I felt very, very alone in the world, where I had my family members. I had my younger brother, my younger sister, but they didn't. I can't say my younger brother didn't understand the gravity of what I was going through, because I'm sure that he did. But I was in a very unique place where I wasn't surrounded by anybody who knew what I was going through. Looking back on it, I think I blacked out for 2 or 3 years of my life. I don't really remember any of it.
Is that from being obviously in a serious state of depression, as well as the drugs you were taking to cover up that pain?
I think it was mostly the state. I wouldn't say that I was taking an enormous amount of drugs. I was just using it as a catalyst to allow me to fall asleep, or to go out and have fun, or to pretend that life is normal. I can go out and drink with my friends, right? But it was definitely the state of depression that I was in, and just I don't remember most of what happened during that period of time, but my mom told me, even tells me stories to this day that I don't remember actually happening, of me punching holes in doors, me punching holes in walls and freaking out, and skipping school all the time, and just doing everything that I would have never done before that happened.
Yeah.
So there was that one event that happened in my life that completely changed everything, which is crazy. I don't know what anybody out there believes, but I'm a practicing Christian now, and I was before I was 14 years old, but I gave up on God at that point as well. I gave up on there being a higher being or higher power, because if there was, how could something like that do that to me?
Yeah.
Take that thing from my life and completely rock my world and make my life a shitstorm, which is what I thought it was, which were all external circumstances.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, oh my God, everything is happening to me, and I don't know what to do about it. So the only thing that I know to do is to check out and go and find a different way to do it.
And during that time, like, did you have any? I mean, did your mum appreciate what you're going through? Your dad.
Yeah, I mean, my mom tried to get me help. She tried to take me to a counselor when I went and I sat in the chair and I didn't talk.
Right.
Like, I was so resistant to doing anything or getting any help. But I mean, in the same respect, my mom was going through her own stuff,
Oh yeah,
right?
absolutely.
My dad was going through his stuff. I can't imagine the weight and the depth of what it feels like to lose a child, you know? My
Horrific.
brothers and sisters, all the people that were the most close to me, were all dealing with their own grief, their own loss, their own stuff, right? And what I ended up coming out with is this feeling that no matter what happened, like, nothing was ever important enough, because if you can lose your brother, then, and it's the person that you're the closest with in your life, then what's the point of, like, of doing good things in life? What's the point of anything? Luckily, I was smart enough to still graduate from high school and go on to college and get a college degree, or university, as you guys would call it over there. Um, so I was really blessed with the brain that I have, that I was able to still keep my life together in some sort. But
So
hold on,
how?
I'm just gonna ground. I'm just gonna ground myself really quick, because I'm getting really nervous,
Yeah, no,
and like, I
absolutely.
don't talk about these things.
No, that's
So,
cool, dude. Absolutely, absolutely. Take a breath. One of the
and
things.
that's
One of the things
go ahead.
I was, my aunt who works in mental health, or has worked in mental health, when she first saw me interviewing Wes the other day, I don't know if you saw the Wes Austin interview, um, and he suffers from PTSD amongst other bits and pieces. She did say that what I should be doing, as someone who's not a professional counsellor or therapist, but I'm having these reasonably deep conversations with people, I should probably I will prepare people prior to it, so that they have some sort of support mechanism during this conversation. So if you do get anxious like you are now, or freaking out like I sometimes do as well, then there's at least some sort of way that folks can take a chill pill for a little while.
Yeah,
But
luckily I've, and I'm sure that we'll get to that at some point, but luckily I've created tools in my life, basically, that I utilize on a daily basis, that when when I feel the trigger, when I feel that I have an anxiety attack, when I feel like a certain way, I know that if I do this one little thing, then I can snap out of it pretty quickly, because I do have control. Like I said a second ago, I was when I was younger, I was in the state that all this stuff always happens to me, and woe is me, and I'm a victim, right?
yeah,
But what I didn't realize is the power and the control that I have in my brain to take care of and get myself out of these mental states, which that's all that it is a mental state. It's actually a way that we allow these things to control us, when all I have to do is, like, literally, I just said, I'm going to ground myself because I'm feeling anxious right now. And I put my hands like this on the table. I put planted my feet firmly on the ground, and took a deep breath, and I feel better.
absolutely. One real simple tool, right? Real simple trick, just to be present
Yeah.
for a moment.
Yeah, and I'm, for a living, I get on these types of phone calls, right? I get on Zoom calls, not necessarily that are live with the entire world on Facebook, but I get on these calls, right? And whether it's a sales call or a business call or a consulting call, that's one tool that I use all the time. That if you see me do that, like, it's because I'm grounding myself, and I feel like it's made me significantly more effective in the consulting that I do.
Yeah,
And significantly more effective in helping people, which is
yeah,
really what I found my purpose to be.
yeah.
Um,
Well, listen. Before we talk about other tools, right, which I would like to go into, um, what? So you said you had this period of 2 years when you were a kid where you sort of blacked out, and
yeah.
then after that you came right. I mean, obviously you can never come all the way right from losing a brother, right? But that intensity of um, of feeling of depression, of lowness, you gradually came out of that over time. I'm guessing you didn't take any medication to
Uh,
help you or anything.
So I had tried a couple different medications when I was younger, different like anti-anxiety meds and anti-depression things when I was really young.
Yep.
You know, my mom also was taking some of that as well, but I found that that made me be even more not me
Right.
than the not me that I was. So
Yeah.
I didn't want to take that either, which was interesting. But at that time, I was never willing to put a definition on what was going on. Meaning, like, I wasn't willing to go and say, I'm depressed, I'm anxious, I have these mental health conditions, I have problems, right?
Right.
I just swept it all under the rug, like there was no issue, no problems. And then the problems wouldn't come out until I was blackout drunk, of course.
Yeah.
But I would say for me, it really took me changing my environment to come out of that blackout state where I start remembering like things that happened and stuff. But
So what
changing
was
my
that?
environment.
What was the change of environment?
So
Going to university.
yeah, going to university, basically. Going to university, and throughout those years, I got in trouble quite a few times. Like, I decided that it was a really good deal because I couldn't afford the drugs that I was getting or wanting to start selling them because you can make money and do them for free that way.
Yep.
And that worked out really well until I got caught and spent some time in jail, which was not fun. When I was 19 years old, I spent 45 days in jail in my
Holy
hometown.
smokes, Josh! I had no idea.
Yeah.
I didn't know you were a felon.
No, I'm not. I'm not a felon. It was
It's all
not a
part of the
felony.
experience, dude.
Yeah, it was. It's all part of the experience. I mean, you know, you really, really get to know yourself when you go through something like that, though.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
45. It was supposed to be 90 days. It was 45 because I was well behaved.
Good behavior, I'd say. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I was a good boy.
Yeah.
Which turned out. It's funny because they actually, you know, I was in university at the time and going through engineering school, which I don't know why I chose one of the most difficult degrees to get.
Well, because you're smart, basically.
Yeah, but I never used it. So it was like, I think it was more of an ego play. Like, oh, let me just prove to everyone how smart I am. Because being smart was the one thing that I always held on to that gave me purpose. Because aside from that, it was like, this world's like crazy.
I did exactly the same thing. I did law at university and never freaking used it.
Yeah.
Complete waste.
Luckily, I used my master's degree, which is cool, but that's because it was very specific and focused and for a reason, which is crazy. But yeah, I went to university and I changed my environment, but I didn't change any of my habits. I still took my habits with me. I still drank, I partied, I was a party kid at school. Luckily, I was smart enough to get through college with only going on test days and doing what I felt like with a full-time job and all that as well to pay for my habits and my addictions. But I would say a few years, like when I graduated from university, I decided to move across the country. Right. So I moved from where I am now in Michigan all the way out to Baltimore in Maryland, 10 hours away for a shit job just because I wanted to get away.
Why choose Baltimore? Why not go somewhere nice?
Because that's the place that presented itself. I got a job there. I mean, you know, I know you're not from the States, but if you understand the economy in 2008, 2009,
it's pretty sucky.
It was basically impossible to get a job anywhere.
Right.
So I took the first job I could get, which happened to be in Baltimore, which is awesome. And I'm super thankful because 7 years later, I ended up meeting my wife there, which I wouldn't have done had I not gone through all of that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know. But, you know, for me, I think I had a hard time actually putting a definition on the issues that I had gone through up until about 4 years ago, right? Before that, like, I had gotten prescribed to Xanax, which is for anti-anxiety, but it was mostly just because I wanted to chill, because I wanted to abuse the drug rather than use it for its purpose.
Yeah.
Even though it was useful because I couldn't sleep. I couldn't sleep because I was drinking all the time. I was drinking all the time because I was anxious. And then it was just a deathly cycle that I was constantly on where I ended up addicted to Xanax, among other things, a few years back, which it's like this cycle that kept happening over and over and over again until I decided and I figured out how to deal with it.
Is Xanax like Valium, is it?
Yeah, it's almost the same thing. They're both benzodiazepines. And
right.
Two very similar things.
You know, I relied on that when I went completely nuts in 2013. I think I was on Valium or diazepam for at least 9 months, just to chill me out. But I needed it. I absolutely needed it.
Oh, I definitely needed it too, based on my state. I mean, so just to give you kind of a quick rundown on how a lot of that happened. I moved to Baltimore from Michigan. No family, no friends, nobody. I don't know anybody aside from the people that I worked with to go out there. And I was constantly playing the game of I need the next thing to finally be happy, right? Like,
Yeah. Well, we all play that, right?
well, you would think so. I don't think I play it anymore. I try,
Great.
but I try and be happy where I am right now.
Yeah.
And that's how you're truly happy. It's not about the next thing or any really worldly thing that we could possibly have, because we all know how our goals work. We set a goal, we reach it, and we're like, holy shit, okay, what do I do now? Right?
Totally.
The whole purpose of goals is to have something to do, to have something to work towards. So once you achieve it, you just want the next thing.
Yeah.
Right? So for me, it was first, I need a nice car. If I have a nice car, then I'll be happy. So I moved, first it was I need a better job that pays enough so then I can be happy. So I worked at this one for 8 months, and then I got another job at this other company for about a year and a half. I got up to making about, I would say, 75,000 a year, where I was decently happy. But it wasn't cutting it as far as my I need the next job thing. So I ended up landing a job in sales in the mortgage industry, where I started to do really, really well. And I was like, holy shit, I finally have the money. I finally have the job that I need. And I had always told myself that once I made this much money, I would be happy. The crazy part is it wasn't true, right?
Yeah.
So then I'm like, man, I just need the new car. So I bought a brand new car, which I still have today. It's right out here.
What is it?
It's a cheap Grand Cherokee. I can show you.
Oh,
It's right out there.
cool.
Beautiful Jeep Grand Cherokee. It was a huge purchase. It was the first car I had ever bought.
Yeah.
And I bought the car, and I was like, man, this is so cool. I have the job, I have the car, but what's going on in here? I'm not happy yet. Like, what's going on? So I was like, all right, what's next? So I'm like, man, maybe I just need a nicer house or nicer apartment. So, like an idiot, I went in downtown at one of the ritziest apartment complexes you could possibly get, and I got an apartment there for a year. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Once I move here, I'll be around everything that I want to be around, and I'll have the car, and I'll be able to get the girl, and I'll have the money, and all of that, and it'll all make me happy. Of course, none of it worked. It didn't work, and then I got really frustrated that it didn't work, and I started suffering at my job. So the money started going away, and I still had an expensive apartment and an expensive car payment, and then I started going down a spiral, the same spiral I had gone down several other times, which is, okay, this isn't working. I should just go drink and hang out with my friends. So I would go and drink and hang out with my friends, which turned into drinking and doing coke and hanging out with my friends, which turned into drinking and doing coke and selling coke and hanging out with my friends, which turned into me being addicted to drinking and doing coke and hanging out with my friends and doing Xanax and having and not doing very good at my job and all of that, which all spiraled into the hardest night and best night of my life.
Tell me.
So the hardest night and best night of my life was I had been dating a girl for about a year and a half, and it seemed like she really liked the me who was the party guy, the me who liked to sell coke or basically get to do all these things for free. And not saying that was the only reason, but we hadn't been doing so well for a couple months. Like, there was actually abuse coming this direction for a while, and it was getting really, really out of hand. And one Saturday morning, I decided to go out and start drinking whiskey at probably 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning.
Awesome.
Coupled with lines of cocaine and pills of Xanax to chill out, because I was super not chill. We had gotten in a fight that morning, and then I left, and then I met her up at the bar later that evening. She got mad at me because she blamed me or thought that I had slept with some other girl that lived in the apartment complex that we lived in at the time, and we ended up getting in a fight. Like a real fight. And
actual fight.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, it wasn't an actual fight. It was her pushing me and slapping me, and me actually reacting once and punching her in the face, and her ending up on the sidewalk.
Crikey. Yep.
And I've never told anybody. Actually, I've told like 3 people about this ever. So this is actually a very first time I've ever talked about it, because I feel okay about it now. I feel grounded. because of what happened as a result. I don't think that what I did was right. I think it's completely fucked up, and I like get pissed if I hear about anybody doing anything like that. And that's why it was so hard for me, because I landed in Central Booking, is what they call it in Baltimore, for 3 nights again that weekend. And that weekend I had the biggest identity crisis that I've ever had in my whole life. And of course the sun would come and shine on me right now.
So what did that look like? The identity crisis.
So, you know, when something like that happens, you start to disassociate yourself with who you really are, or who you know yourself to be, because the person that you know yourself to be deep down isn't the person that would be doing these things.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
It's not, you know, the person that I always knew myself to be was a nice, kind-hearted, gentle person who loves and cares for other people, who is generally like a really, really good person. But the person I had become through my anxiety and my depression and the underlying symptoms and the causations that had for me was this devil who did drugs and was a bad influence on other people. And I just became this really, really bad person. And it all culminated with this one event where I was like, oh my God, the person I know myself to be would never do this. So I was literally locked up, fiending for Xanax because I was addicted at that time, fiending for lines, fiending for cigarettes because I was addicted to that too, wanting a drink of alcohol because I was hammered at the time, like I barely even remember any of this happening, trying to figure out who the hell I was. Right? And for me, it's Jesus. For me, it's God now. And this is how it all happened. For a lot of people, I don't want to alienate anybody and say, you know, it's absolutely that for you guys, because you have to make your own choice. But for me, what I discovered this week was that, or this night, was that within an instant, all of that was able to go away. Right? So it didn't go away. It just, I found a way to manage it. So, and let me explain. When I was being brought up, I had ground myself again.
It's all right. No hurry.
When I was being brought up, you know, was brought up in a Christian household, and I was always taught that, you know, all you had to do is surrender in order to have all of your sins washed away, in order to have this weight off your shoulder. But I never really knew what any of that meant. Right? So the only thing I could think of to do in this state where I was staring at a wall sobbing because I didn't know who I was to look up to my higher power and ask him for help and surrender everything of who I was. And I basically, you know, did one of the things where you bargain with God, if you will. Yeah. And I said, hey, you know, if you're real, you're going to freaking come here and help me, because this is the time that I need the most help. And if you're real, you're going to come and help. And immediately at that instant, all the weight that I had on my shoulders was gone. All of the anxiety that I was feeling, all of the fiending for the different drugs, everything that I was feeling negative was just gone for me in an instant. And I knew at that point that my life had changed, but I didn't know exactly what that meant, right? So the other interesting part is, like, so I was sitting in a cell, and probably 30 or 40 feet away from me was this tiny little window, probably 2 inches by 2 inches. And at that exact moment when I said that prayer, the sun came up on the skyrise. It must have been 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. And it shined through the window, but it shined through the window directly on me like the sun is right now.
No way.
I need to make this go away.
What an amazing story.
Yeah, but so that happened. But, you know, the takeaway from that isn't necessarily that you need to choose Jesus or God, right? It's just that there is a higher power. And regardless of who your higher power is or any of that, the takeaway is that true peace comes in surrender.
Absolutely.
Surrendering who you are, surrendering what you're doing, surrendering your feelings to whatever you want your belief system to be set. And for me, it's Jesus, right? I surrendered everything to him, and he took it from me, in an instant, and I knew my life had changed. Now, has it been a cakewalk since then? Hell no. No, all these things keep coming back. It's like same pattern, same routine, because you don't break a habit overnight. You just decide to change overnight.
Yeah.
You just decide that you want to surrender overnight and kind of start doing the work. that's necessary that I should have started when I was 14 years old. So I feel like I spent half of my life as the prodigal son, if you will, and then I had to come back and do the work that I was supposed to do when I was 14 years old.
So what did that work look like?
So the number one thing for me that I did was starting to be physically active, physically fit.
Yeah.
So, and I don't do anything half-assed, so I decided that it would be a really good idea to go start doing CrossFit.
Yeah.
And I started at 3 days a week, and then I was at 4 days a week, and then I was at 5 days a week, and then I was at 6 days a week, and then I did it every single day, and then I became a CrossFit trainer.
Wow.
So physical.
That's my go-to every time. It's physical movement. Breaking
Yeah.
sweat.
And for me, it was CrossFit because I could go to a CrossFit workout and I didn't have to think. Right?
No.
They just told me, go do this, go do that, go do that, go do that, and just do it in order as much as you can, as many rounds as possible, as many reps as possible, lift as heavy as you possibly can. And it was kind of like, it gave me the same type of dopamine rush that all the other crap that I was doing gave me, except this was natural.
And healthy.
So it was great for me. Yeah, and healthy. It was great for me. But through that, I realized that from sitting at a desk and being stationary almost my whole life, that I had a lot of flexibility issues. So I started doing some programs like this thing called ROMWOD, which stands for range. It's called ROMWOD, ROMWOD.
Yeah.
It stands for range of motion workout of the day, which is basically just a 12 to 15 minute yoga routine that I would do every night to increase flexibility, increase mobility. But what I found through it is I found the practice of meditation, because I would have the ability every night to go have 10 to 15 minutes to myself where I just got to focus on stretching and feeling good and feeling my body and breathing. And through that, I don't do that part of it anymore. But when I stopped doing ROMWOD, I started realizing that there's power in this meditation thing. There's power in this breathing thing. And I can just do these things anytime I feel like it and snap myself out of whatever it is that I'm feeling. Now, am I still good at it all the time? No. I still struggle a lot. And what I mean is, like, I still have times where I'll start having an anxiety attack, and it shows up for me because I turn into being a dick to my wife, which is not nice or not cool. Obviously, I'm never physical. I just want to throw that out there. I've never done anything like that before, ever, after again. But, it shows up still every day, and it's important to, like I heard somebody say once that awareness is the destination.
Yeah.
And I certainly believe that in these types of scenarios, the number one thing you can do is just stop for a second and become aware that maybe I am being depressed. Maybe I am maybe I am having an anxiety attack. Maybe I am just having some sort of problem outside of myself, and maybe this is all on me because I have more control over the things that happen in my life than I actually think.
Right. And it's just getting that distance from that thought or emotion or the feeling in your body and being able to take a step back from it and own it and realize that it's not the real you. It's just a thought pattern or an emotion rising or whatever it is happening to you.
Yeah, totally. I mean, for me, like, I started studying right around, I would say probably 6 months ago. This methodology called NLP, or Neuro-Linguistic Programming. I don't know if you talk about this at all in your stuff, but
Not specifically, no.
Not specifically. But it's really helped me because I got my undergrad in engineering. That kind of teaches you how I think. I think very systematically. I think that everything is like an equation, right? So what's the perfect equation for living the perfect life? Well, you have to do this and do this and do this and do this and do this. But what I realized is that when we do all of that and set up these perfect equations and these perfect habits, we end up just going through the motions of our life, and that's what puts us into depressive or anxious states, is when you just feel like you're going through the motion without a purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of your purpose now, have you identified what that is?
I have. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. I need to take these. I'm just going to go somewhere else. I'm getting really hot.
That's okay. I might have to do the same.
Cool. Yeah, so through thing I would say, my was always knowing and understanding. Feel like I'm not good enough to graduate high school, so I did. I felt like I wasn't good enough to go to engineering school, so I did. I feel like I'm not good enough all the time, but through programming, I was able to change the conversation and even thought patterns from enough to, I still get to do all these things. I get to learn, I get to grow because my purpose is to help people, which is amazing because I've been able to create a
Josh, you're
business and
breaking
create a
up, dude. I think you
lifestyle
must be
where,
stepping away from the
are you
Wi-Fi.
there?
I think you may have stepped away from the Wi-Fi because I'm struggling to hear you. You keep cracking up.
Oh, is that better?
Can you go back towards the... Yeah, I think that's
Go
better
back
now.
towards the house.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, just a little bit, that's all.
Yeah, where'd you lose me?
Just about how you implement your purpose and about
Oh,
NLP.
okay. Yeah, cool. So my purpose is to help people. Really, that's it. It's to help people to overcome problems, to help them through their challenges, to really consult with people, to help them through different things that they're experiencing in their businesses right now, but also in their lives. Like, I really just get driven. Are you still there, or am I still breaking up?
Yeah, no, good. You're all good.
Okay.
Perfect.
So I realize that I get the most personally whenever I'm able to add value to other people's lives. Right.
Yeah.
And through all those years, that's something I wasn't doing because I was focusing only on myself, only on how I felt, only on what I could do for me, and nothing on what I could do for anybody else. So, throughout that period of time, I figured my purpose is to help other people in whatever way that looks. I get to kind of choose that and pick my own path, but as long as I'm following that purpose, it's awesome. Because, and I don't know if I broke up during this part, but I was talking about my core wound being the fact that I always feel like I'm not good enough. I feel like I don't have enough. I feel like I'm not enough. I feel like any fight that I have with my wife or any time that we get in a disagreement, it can probably be boiled down to I feel like I'm not enough, and I feel like I'm not going to be a man enough, and I'm afraid that you're going to leave me because my brother did when I was 14.
Yeah.
So
And
that's the story.
that
That's the
is
story.
probably, if you boil it down to lots of people, if you talk to many, many, many people, the crux of most people's everything, issues, insecurities, will come down to a sense of I'm not good enough, or I don't love myself enough, or I'm not worthy, in my experience of talking to people. It's a really, really common crux, right?
Yeah, I mean, you feel like you're not good enough. You feel like you're not worthy. And I feel like this is almost everybody, actually. So whether we identify with struggling with a mental disorder, mental disease, mental issue, right, or we don't identify with that, I feel like we all still have that core, either feeling I'm not lovable, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not able, I don't have these things. And they're the number one things that hold people back, but they're also what hold us in our ruts, right? They're what hold us where we are, and they keep us stuck. So until we start dealing with those and working on them, I mean, that's the reason that in some of the success, all the success books you read, all the things that you read about people becoming super successful, there is one thing that they all have in common. They all had to start here. They had to start with themselves and their brains and making sure that they're overcoming these self-limiting beliefs and self-limiting obstacles within themselves. And for me, that's what I have to work on every day, because I know that I can't fix anything outside of me, and I can't help solve problems, which is really all a business is anyway, is a solution to a problem.
Yeah.
If I think I'm not good enough, because if I think I'm not good enough, I will be.
So how do you address thinking you're not good enough?
So through some NLP techniques, I mean, one of the things that was keeping me stuck and keeping me there is I was like, man, it is really comfortable for me to sit here knowing and thinking and telling myself the story that I'm not good enough, because it's just easier, because any evidence I find in the world that speaks to that story that I'm telling myself, it just makes everything true and easier. It means that I don't necessarily have to work hard, because you know what? I'm just not good enough anyways. Right? It means that I don't have to do everything in my world to fulfill my purpose, because I'm not good enough to do that anyway. I'm not able. So I might as well just sit here and be depressed. But what I decided to do is I just show up every day. I think life is a game of showing up. Showing up where you have to be, showing up to help the other people that are around you, and showing up to fulfill your purpose. And if all that I really do is I show up, and then I have a set of tools that I utilize to help myself whenever I'm feeling like I'm in a funk, which still happens all the time. Like shit, 3 weekends ago, I went in my dungeon basement and I decided to check out and played a video game for 13 hours straight until 7 o'clock in the morning. Like, this still happens to me. I'm not saying that I'm perfect or that I figured it out. I'm saying I'm still figuring it out.
That's not necessarily a bad thing, Josh, right? It's just you taking some
Yeah.
time out to do your thing.
Yeah,
There's nothing wrong with
totally.
that.
And well, that's the thing. I love that you said that too, because we all take these things that we do, right? And then the depression comes from feeling like they're wrong, right? Because
Yeah.
nothing is right or wrong, nothing is good or bad until
No.
the story, the layer that we add on top of it is that it's bad, right?
Exactly.
So I'm feeling this way. I'm feeling anxious, and because I'm feeling anxious, I shouldn't feel this way, and that's bad and wrong. So now I'm depressed. Now I'm in this depressed state, and it's
Yeah.
a constant cycle,
Yeah,
and you
exactly.
can never get out of it until you break it. And one of the best ways to break it is to stop, ground yourself, breathe. And if that doesn't work, just do it like 4 or 5 more times. I also have
Absolutely.
some other tools that I use too. Through NLP, I was able to learn the anchoring tool, which is amazing. And I know you teach your people this, which is cool. And this is a shameless plug for the bracelets, because I use them, which is amazing. But there's this technique called anchoring, right? And it's simple. Your senses and your sense of touch, your sense of feel, you can actually keep the feelings that you have in objects and in senses and in the smell of things, right? So, and I know that seems kind of out there, but have you ever, like, if you've ever walked into a room and you smelled something, right? And you're like, man, I recognize that smell.
Yeah.
And that smell ends up reminding you of this time that you were in middle school, or this time you were in high school with your with your very first love of your life, and it was the perfume that she wore, and it makes you feel like you're in a loving state, because you remember how you were in a loving state back when you smelled that the last time.
Absolutely.
Right? That you associate that smell with that feeling. So for me, I actually do use these things every day. This is my anxiety bracelet from Be Here Now. The best, what is it, $14 I've ever spent in my life. No, seriously. But the idea is I wear this every day. And anytime I'm feeling good, anytime I'm feeling calm and at peace, like let's say I'm out here in the back and I'm just laying here relaxing, meditating, doing whatever I'm doing, all I have to do is touch it and hold on to it.
A specific way?
I mean, I know that you teach people to do it in a specific way, but for me, I don't really care.
Right.
Let me just set this down. For me, you always tell people to go like this, right?
Well, it's just the thumb and the index finger is quite a focused point.
So right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's teaching me how to do this right now, because I probably don't do it right. But I'm not going to get anxious over doing it right or wrong.
Right. You're not.
But like that.
Yeah.
Very specifically, I usually just kind of like play with it, twist it around, and just know that it's there.
You do, right? George uses his ring. He twists his ring on his finger, and that's his anchor for a sense of calming.
Yeah, totally. So I just play with it, or I fiddle with it, or I just touch it and hold it, right? So if I'm feeling really, really good, I'm feeling in an amazing state right here, right now, in this beautiful woods. I'm just feeling amazing. I'm hanging out with my wife, and we're having a good time. I'll just do that. And what doing that will do for me is it will remind me the next time that I'm feeling not that way, that all I have to do is do that, and I can come back to that feeling.
So you're
strengthening
the anchor at every opportunity. Like what I've done is created a guided meditation where folks can take it down to a deep, peaceful state and then anchor the sense of the touch. I've got mine on as well. The touch and the smell of that bracelet with that peaceful state. But what you're doing is going one step further. You may or may not have done the meditation, but you are, every time you're in that nice, peaceful, calm, happy state, you're reinforcing that anchor by doing the same thing, which is flipping awesome. I didn't even thought about that, but it's an excellent idea.
Totally. So that's what I do. That's part of it. I mean, I also meditate every night because I suck at sleeping. Or I don't suck at sleeping. I'm really good at it, actually. But I suck at falling asleep when I want to, and I suck at waking up when I want to. So I suck at falling asleep and waking up. So both the things that I actually have to do around sleeping.
Yeah.
So I meditate like almost every night. So I get like a daily meditation sent to my inbox that I can just listen to whenever I feel like it. And, that's amazing. That really, really helps me. And that along with the meditation bracelets as well, helps me feel in a really, really relaxed state. So I don't use this one, but I have a different one that I'll put on when I go to bed. And I think they come in like a 6-pack, so all kinds of different colors. I gave a couple to my wife because they're kind of girly. But
they are, some of them. Have you got the tiger? Is that the tiger's eye one, Josh? That you're wearing?
Oh yeah,
same as me, dude.
Yeah,
Boom.
Yeah.
My
Boom,
favorite.
Bump it. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff like that. Like if you're feeling stressed or anxious, like go work out, go to the gym, go for a walk, pet your dog, like do anything that brings you joy in your life that and just like identify that it brings you joy. And like the second piece, I guess, of everything is gratitude.
Yeah.
Right. Like I'm looking around at this house that my wife and I now live in, and regardless
by the way, it looks
of what
flipping
house,
enormous. By the way, is that all yours?
Yeah.
Wow, it's huge.
It's a decent sized house. Are
you going to be populating it soon or something?
Maybe.
With babies is my point.
I'm gonna get myself in trouble. No, we'll see. Backwards baby. Why is it? Is that because we're on the other side of the world? Is that what you call us?
Well, no, I said, are you going to be populating it with babies at some point? Is that why you got such a big house?
Oh no, it's because I work from here, so I have a whole office and like my whole agency is here. So
cool.
I need more space because this is like I don't ever actually have to leave here if I don't want to. That's what Order Up is for. No, but seriously, what was I saying? I was about to say something and it was going to be really deep, Jeremy.
Oh shit! Sorry, dude.
I was talking about gratitude. Like we don't even realize what we have at our hands. Like I could be really anxious right now because I'm on a Facebook Live with you and I don't know who the hell is going to listen to this. But on the other sense of things, I'm able to video chat with you live to the entire world. And you're completely on the like if I look straight down, you're probably right there.
Down there, right?
Yeah, like
I'm 5,000 miles that way.
Yeah, right? Like I'm so grateful for this opportunity to be able to like literally video chat with somebody across the world. Like when you think about something like that and how we just kind of fit into this world that we get to live in. We don't live in this world, we get to live in this world and we get to have everything that we have. And when you think about it that way, it's like, man, how am I going to be mad that how am I going to get upset that I didn't do the dishes or that the laundry's not done or that there's clothes on the ground or that, something's a mess? How am I going to get mad at all of that when the things that are causing the mess, I don't even I get to have those things, right? Yeah. The laundry that needs to be folded, I get to have that laundry. I get to have those clothes.
Some people don't even have clothes. Some people don't have a laundry, right?
Right. Like I get to adding I get to do this, I get to do that to your vocabulary can make a humongous difference in your life. It's crazy.
It's a super simple tool.
Aside from that, man, like I just read a lot. I read and I listen to Audible books about like what people are doing because when I don't know how to do something, I study how to do it so I can get really knowledgeable about how to do it, even though like I get really informational, I should say, because knowledge is information put to action. And you don't get knowledge until you actually do something about it. So it's not important to just read. You have to actually do something with it. I don't know.
Go on.
I was going to say one amazing book I read recently was The 5-Second Rule.
Oh, yeah.
Because one of the things that I noticed causes a lot of anxiety in my life is procrastination, which I love to do. And the 5-second rule by Mel Robbins has this thing where you literally just count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then whatever it is you were thinking of, you just literally just go and do. Like rather than thinking about it, like we all like to make to-do lists and we like to write all the crap that we have to do down. And like I guarantee some of the things we write on our to-do list, we spend more time writing on our to-do list than it would actually take to do the thing.
Definitely. I've done that.
Which is nuts.
Even repeating the same one, like I've seen it on one list and I'm creating a new list. I'll move that one across the same to-do item across the new list.
Exactly. And it would have taken you the same amount of time to just do the
Fucking do
thing.
it.
And it's like, it feeds my story of like, I'm not good enough. I'm not ready to do this. If I do this, it means I'll be successful and prove my story wrong. So I'm not going to do it right away.
Yeah, true that. True that.
So my challenge to people would be prove your freaking stories wrong, because they're most likely not true. It's most likely just stuff that we tell ourselves and stories that we make up about the circumstances that are happening in our life, and just sit back and breathe and say, is this really happening, or am I just making this shit up in my head? Because 9 times out of 10, like, we're just making it up. It's funny because like my wife and I, Kayla, we recently started doing this thing where whenever we want to communicate something to the other person, we say, the story I'm telling myself right now is that. So let me give you an example. The story I'm telling myself right now is that you're really upset with me, and that me not taking the trash out is going to make you eventually want to leave me, because I'm always this and I'm always that, and I'm never good enough for you, and I'm, ultimately not good enough, right? So, and then, ultimately she gets an opportunity to respond to that, and chances are that's not what she was thinking at all. She was probably thinking about herself or some story that she was telling herself, and we're all too worried about this, and we all get an anxiety loop, and it goes up and it goes up and it explodes, and and then that's where fights happen. That's where, not
Absolutely.
fights, but arguments.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
No, this, like you say, the story you tell yourself is quite often, if not 99% of the time, untrue. Well, dude, you've dropped some amazing knowledge bombs and tools and stuff in the last half an hour. I don't want to take up the rest of your evening, but it's been amazing,
okay,
Josh. I really
cool.
appreciate
I
it.
hope I feel like I completely ruined your podcast and your structure, because I don't
No,
think you
dude,
followed it at
who
all.
who cares? You've smashed it. You've completely smashed it. I've noticed there's been
Cool.
one person watching us the whole time, and I bet you that's Kayla. Is it you, Kayla? Comment, please.
Is it?
No, it's
How can I
not.
tell?
It's George. It might be George. I don't
I
know who
told
it
I
is.
told her I asked Kayla not to watch it because it made me more anxious,
Okay.
at least right away. But it could be her. If it's George, hi George. George is supposed to be spending family time. Um,
All good.
all right, Jeremy. Thank you so much. And guys, seriously, like anybody watching this, and Jeremy, I'm doing this specifically. So we work together on like marketing stuff and in a mastermind. But I'm doing this specifically so you can repurpose this. So, but Jeremy, this right here, this anxiety bracelet alone has helped me relieve my anxiety, relieve my depression. All I do is set a simple anchor in that one little bead that you see right there. And within seconds, I'm able to relieve my anxiety, my fear, my depression, and get into a calm sense of being and a calm state. It's amazing. So thank you for creating these, and thank you for everything that you're doing for this community.
Thank you for being with us, mate. Lots of love. We'll chat soon.
All right. Yep.
Adios, brother.
Bye. Adios.